Hello. I don't yet know what today's episode's going to be about. By the time this is published, by the time you're watching this, obviously you know what it's about, but we've been moving up north, getting out of Mississippi, so we're recording this early while I've still got the studio area, and I hope today's video is good. I've got nothing to add. So here we are, today's video all about pork markets.
Pork markets.
Pork markets.
Pork markets.
If you've worked hard on something that people enjoy, chances are pretty damn good that you'd like credit for it, some acknowledgement of the industriousness and quality of your labour. I sure as shit know I'd like to get positive acclaim when I've done something well, and whenever that day comes, I hope it's recognised. I do get the thing that's a bit like credit though, blame. I get that all the time. Even if it's just a small bit of text swiftly scrolling up at the end of a television show, a place in the credits is to be expected for anybody who's invested time and effort into a production. Some people, however, aren't even awarded that much, despite what they may have contributed. The realm of video games is one such place where credit isn't guaranteed, even if it's due. A problem felt especially keenly in an industry where big-name creators such as directors and writers are uncommon, and executives tend to become better known than the actual talent. Millions of people love The Witcher 3, for example, and a majority of those people know it was published by CD Projekt Red. But how many of those people know it was directed by Konrad Tomaskiewicz, Mateusz Zanuck, and Sebastian Stepien? That it was written by Marcin Blacha? Oof. I'll fuck them names up good and proper. Jesus. Now, unlike with some of the examples we're going to talk about in a bit, these names aren't hidden, they're on the Wikipedia page, but the creative minds behind the household name that is Witcher 3 are not themselves household names. Video game acclaim just doesn't seem to work that way. The vast majority of people put the credit for the game's creation purely on the studio, and we don't really do that with movies. When you think of The Terminator, you think of James Cameron, you don't think of Hemdale or Pacific Western Productions. And how sad is it that we've had to wait until this video for the creative mind behind big rigs over-the-road racing to get their acclaim. We salute you, lead designer Artem Mironovsky. We salute you. As noted, when a movie is successful, sometimes when it's not, we know the creative minds behind it. From your Martin Scorsese's to your Taika Waititi's to your Sofia Coppola's, you can't move for famous helmspeople of the medium. Meanwhile, in the video game industry, comparatively few directors or lead designers are all that well known. Now, I'm sure you could name quite a few off the top of your head, Shigeru Miyamoto of course, John Carmack, Roberta Williams, but compared to Hollywood, you see a mere handful of games actually promote their directors, let alone use said directors to promote the games themselves. It often seems like you have to be a megastar in the first place to get treated like you're noteworthy. Considering you could remain an obscure creator even if you create a hit game, it's small wonder that some directors plaster their name all over their products lest they remain as obscure as Sunnyside Farm. American McGee and Sid Meier have their names baked inherently into game titles, and Hideo Kojima makes sure you know that you're playing a Hideo Kojima game. His name's all over the fucking shop. I always thought it was arrogance, which, I mean, that may be part of it, but also kind of maybe not. Maybe it's just creators wanting you to know that they created something. Although that itself can be a problem if you present yourself as a video game auteur. You might either deliberately or accidentally trick people into thinking you were responsible for the entire game. This is something that director Warren Spector talked about years ago. He said there's a tendency among the press to attribute the creation of a game to a single person. Now, what he said there is part of a popular meme, because in the interview where he said this, it was followed by IGN saying, "Says Warren Spector, creator of Thief and Deus Ex," and I'm sure you can see why it was a meme. At the same time as Warren Spector is complaining about video games being attributed to a single person, IGN is attributing 2 games to Warren Spector. Now, this meme is often shared around to make fun of IGN, but I think that's the wrong lesson to learn from it. The takeaway should be that it's very hard to communicate the full scope of a team working on a game, exactly how many people put their labour into it. And when a single, well-known name emerges from the development team, it's hard to talk about them in a way that gives credit to what they do without making it sound like they've done everything. The important part of the meme is not what IGN said about Warren Spector, it's what Warren Spector said in the first place. And it applies to everyone. We have a tendency to latch onto recognisable names and faces, and subsequently in our minds we make those names and faces responsible for everything. And that can be a real problem because we don't just have an issue where creative minds, where the directors and the writers don't get enough credit. We can see a far worse problem of active talent suppression that the game industry has been engaged with for years. Wait, sorry, not years. Decades. More and more, fair treatment of workers has been a growing issue in video games, and one issue that really needs to be addressed is also a very simple one. Fucking credit your workers. Game companies. Fucking credit them. It doesn't matter what they worked on or for how long, if their labour helped to make the game, then recognise them. The most recent instance of a company not crediting its creators was XSEED and its active removal of names from game credits. Brittany Avery, a former production coordinator and localization producer with the company, noticed that her name was scrubbed from the end of the Legends of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel. While credited in the original version, she was silently removed from the PS4 port. Silently until Avery called out XSEED and the story got picked up. There was an outcry, quite rightly, and XSEED responded in a way that left some people utterly dumbfounded. "We appreciate the hard work of everyone who contributes to our releases," it said, "but it is and always has been company policy that only current members of our staff are credited. We have never credited staff for their individual roles or if they have left the company." Yeah, that tweet is still up, by the way. It's still up. They're okay with it, and why wouldn't they be? If you call something policy, you can get away with any fucking thing, and considering everyone quickly forgot about the whole kerfuffle, a cynical person would say they were right to hide behind corporate tradition. And it is tradition. You see, while people were shocked by XSEED's amazingly callous response, it's not actually a new thing in the industry, nor is it limited to just XSEED. The idea that someone's name is off the credits if they leave the company has been around for a very long time, and it's something that absolutely needs to change. The practice was being called out at least as far back as 2009. A Kotaku article titled "They Worked on the Game You Played But Didn't Get Credit" by Lee Alexander exposed how disappointingly common the issue was then, and stories like this deserve re-examination at a time where people care a lot more than they used to about this medium's business practices. One developer was shocked to learn his entire team had been removed from the credits of Operation Flashpoint 2 after he'd left developer Codemasters. This is despite some of those uncredited people working on the game for 18 goddamn months. Reportedly, the game's messy development was coloured by a perceived lack of appreciation for worker efforts, a lack of appreciation confirmed by Codemasters' decision to give no recognition to more than a year of work. OFP2 was a seriously broken project with 2 or 3 restarts and a high turnover of staff, revealed the developer. Looking through the credits list, it was disturbing to see how many people had been left out. Presumably because they either weren't part of the core team who finished it or had left the company before it shipped. Codemasters' response was almost exactly the same as XSEED's, claiming it was company policy to only credit those who are with a team through the successful completion of a game or those that completed their contribution to a specific element of a game. According to the aforementioned Kotaku article, the International Game Developers Association found that 35% of developers admitted they never, or only occasionally, receive credit for their labour.
Gripping my consensual
Pork markets.
Mythic Entertainment pulled the same shit with Warhammer Online in 2008 to a ludicrous degree. According to a report at the time, Mythic took explicit steps to ensure that the only people listed for credit were those who were in the office on the day the list was made. I mean, what the fuck? And of course, in 2013, Mythic would punish people for insubordination by putting them in the credits for Dungeon Keeper Mobile. Am I right? Am I fucking right? Unsurprisingly, Rockstar Games has had trouble crediting people in the past. The company upon which we did a blistering Jimquisition regarding its awful working conditions has on at least one occasion failed to credit a studio of 55 people, as revealed by IGDA's Jason Della Rocca. One of the most extreme examples is what happened with Manhunt 2, where a publisher, Rockstar Games, literally pretended that the studio that made the game never existed. It's the perfect example for why this industry needs crediting standards. Depressingly, JD Rocker said this in 2007, and while his trade association does have crediting guidelines, they are only guidelines that no company is obligated to follow. Nobody can make them appreciate their own workers. It's not hard to see one particularly slimy motive for leaving names off the books. Leaving a project before completion could see all your hard work go unsung, and if you've poured months or maybe years into a project, the prospect of becoming essentially unpersoned is going to be pretty damn painful. Should we be surprised that an industry raking in billions off the back of microtransactions is using the concept of the sunk cost on its own developers? I mean, it works on the customers, right? The choice for developers is as simple as it is sadistic. Stay with a project even if it's a grind, even if it's a mess, even if it's hurting you, because the only way you get to prove your accomplishment is if you're with the company when production wraps. It's leverage at the end of the day, pure fucking leverage. Sadly, it behooves game publishers to, as much as possible, have brand names be seen as responsible for the games we enjoy. Infinity Ward makes Modern Warfare, Bungie makes Destiny, for example. For the most part, the industry would rather see logos than people at the centre of a game's creation. We live in an age where brand is everything and having a platform is more valuable than ever. Those with a platform, those with a brand, get to broadcast their message out into a near fully connected world, and they can cause all sorts of fun trouble if their broadcast gets a signal boost. Anyone with a brand, even a relatively small one, can become incredibly powerful under the right circumstances. And if there's one thing major corporations don't like, it's individuals with power. They'll tell you that no one is bigger than the brand, but fuck that. It's easier for the AAA game industry to keep treating workers like dirt if they don't have a name, because if they don't have a name, they don't have a voice. If they don't have a voice, they can't expose physically dangerous work hours. If they don't have a voice, they can't call out incompetent management. If they don't have a voice, they can't describe toxic workplace cultures. And when a company has control over whether or not the world will even know your name, they can make you do all sorts of things. I mean, some game publishers will even treat their most famous names like shit because they consider nobody as big as their brand. Hideo Kojima's departure from Konami was alienating and bitter. They wouldn't let him attend E3, they scrubbed Kojima's name from Metal Gear Solid 5's website, and made sure to change the name of Kojima Productions Los Angeles to Konami Productions Los Angeles. Konami even legally blocked Kojima's appearance at the Game Awards one year as if the company was scared of someone with their own platform and brand. And that's what this industry will do to an auteur, to a famous person, to one of the biggest names on the market. Just imagine what it does to someone with none of Kojima's advantages. In 2007, The Hollywood Reporter's Paul Hyman wrote this: "Imagine working on a blockbuster film for 2.5 years and then being left out of the movie's end credits. It's not likely to happen because union contracts dictate giving credit where credit is due." And that, right there, lies at the heart of the issue. As far as video games are concerned, IGDA can only write up standards as guidelines followed at a publisher's discretion. A movie industry union can actually make a company give credit where credit is due. Unions, the likes of which this and many industries resist, badmouth and undermine at every turn, because actual representation, it takes their power. It takes their leverage. It takes their ability to keep the people responsible for their very success faceless, voiceless, nameless, and powerless. And they don't fucking like it. When major video game publishers don't fucking like something, it usually means it's a pretty fucking good something. As I've said, I have no idea what the video is about, and therefore no idea how to end this. What is something I've wanted to say but don't have an excuse? Jizz! Some say jism. Do you get it from Bloodborne? I've looked for an excuse for years to say jizz, some say jism instead of cosm, because that amused me, but I've had no excuse to put it into a video, so might as well be now, alright? Anyway, I'm gonna go now. The glass in one of these goggles fell out when we filmed last week's bit where I made out with the boglin. This will be gone by then anyway. Just make a mess. We'll see you next time. Bye.